your content is not performing the way it should be. But the root cause of that was always those sort of things: overwhelm, exhaustion, creativity, fatigue, time poverty, and just the communication skills gap. Because I definitely do have clients where I'm just like, you definitely need me because you're struggling to articulate this to me. So I think when you can do a case study so you can really see like what is the problem that you're experiencing, and then start asking your clients, like as you start delivering services or as you start building your portfolio, ask them, what is it that you feel like I actually do for you? What do I help you with? And they may say, oh, you take off of my plate, right? That's an active service problem. That they're not saying you help me with my content and messaging. They're saying like, you make my life easier. I get to breathe because you're around. And that is what made me position my own messaging to be like, if you're overwhelmed and exhausted, I'm the person that you want to talk to. I'm going to make this seamless for you. And that is when people started reaching out to me to say, okay, this is a person that gets me.
That's big. That's
it
big.
is.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time to thoroughly understand your market. For one, I mean, case study, like you say, Arielle, that's definitely a big one. I would say as well, and like you said, market research, it can be seen as cliche and stuff like that. But definitely going to speak to the market, however you have to do that. One thing I did that actually changed up our marketing strategy a few years ago, and I actually talked about this in a YouTube video I put out last week, is I was actually writing a new video sales letter, which also could be considered a piece of content. And what I did was I went back through a lot of my sales calls that I did over the years with potential clients and things that they spoke about on those calls. I took those things out the calls and I went, and that's how I wrote the copy, right? So a lot of times people, like you said, they just guessing or they just think they know what the market wants. Instead of really taking the information from what the market has actually told them, you know, and taking that extra step forward. So yeah, that's definitely a big area in what you just talked about there in terms of crafting messaging when it comes to understanding the market.
Do you feel like sales, and I know you have these conversations all the time, I feel like the way in which we frame it kind of trips people up, because you're right. Like you can go back through your sales calls and you can hear the trigger words, like people say yes, or you even just watch their body language to see when they sort of start contracting, like if they get sticker shock. Like, do you have people leaned all the way in up until you name your price? If you do, you know, it's like my message is landing. This person is just not, doesn't have the budget that I need. Like going back and paying attention to those things. So do you feel like we have enough of a conversation when it comes to growing businesses? I think we so much focus, and I say this as a messaging person, so this is going to sound ironic. We focus so much on what we say and not what we hear, right? And not what they're saying to us.
For sure.
I just wondered if you if that's something that you're noticing in your own work, and if you see like if when people make that switch, is that when it changes for them?
Yeah, I tell people all the time, especially like I say, clients that we work with, is that you have to focus on being interested in people versus being so interesting, right? Meaning learning how to listen more than you speak. And so me, I'm always just listening, even when I do sales calls, right? Still to this day, I still take sales calls. And when I do the calls, I'm just listening. I'm complete silence. I have a pen, pad. I still take notes on a pen and pad. I know some people may do it on their laptop or whatever, but I still have a pen and pad, taking notes, and I'm just listening. I'm not interrupting, and I'm not listening from a standpoint of thinking about the next thing I'm going to say. I'm really genuinely listening to what they're saying, right? I'm really
engaged in the conversation. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. And that's what you have to do. And then once you do that and you listened enough, when it comes to creating marketing pieces in the future, it's more easier for you to do it because you listened enough to your market, right? When it comes to writing copy, writing content pieces, or whatever the case may be, if that makes sense. Yeah.
One of the mental reframes that really helped me was I had to stop looking at them as sales calls. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to. I had to stop like looking at them as sales calls. Like I had to stop being like, okay, I'm going in here. I'm going to see when I can pitch. I'm going to listen to the problem that they have. And I'm going to let them know that I'm the person that can solve it. Because when I did that, I was losing all of the things that make me great at what I do. I lost my curiosity. I lost my presence of mind. I was just like, okay, in what angle can I sort of work to make sure this like finagle something? And that's just not how I naturally show up. So once I was like, let me just show up with curiosity, with presence to see if I even like this person. Like some of us are so desperate to make money, we're about to be locked in contracts with people we don't even want to talk to. So that's the other thing. Like, but once I started kind of saying, like, I'm just going to go in and this is a networking call for me, because I do think that when you open it up that way, you get more bang for your buck. And what I mean by that is, like, you can definitely go in and you can position yourself and say, this is what I do, and do those things unapologetically. But when you go into it like a networking call, you may get a referral partner out of it. You may get a podcast interview out of it. You may get a check out of it. I'll give you an example. Just last week, I hopped on a cold call with somebody that was a sales call that was set up by my outreach team. And I went into the call and I was like, I'm not going to close this. That guy, our conversation was so well. He didn't have the budget, but he just referred somebody to me. He was like, hey, I want to connect you with this person. I want to tell them about the work that you do. And now I have a follow-up call with that person. So I think, and I honestly think that we're sort of in the age of influencers and social media, like I always say, talk to real business owners, talk to people who have been in the game for a minute, who've been like you, who have done sales, like in maybe a job role, right? Talk to people who are not like, just have this one-on-one passive relationship online, because they will be the ones to tell you like, no, it's almost like courting. Like you meet with people, you see if there's synergy. Sometimes they're like, you know what, you're not a match for me, but I think my friend might be, you guys might buy instead of me, right? And when you make that mental reframe, it makes it so much less stressful and so much easier for you just to be yourself, and opens up opportunities that you're not even imagining.
Yep, I agree 100%. And one thing I would say, Arielle, there is, like I say, I've trained on this for years, and this is something that I do, is when you show, I know I'm calling them sales calls. We don't call them sales calls. We typically call them discoveries or strategy sessions, or even just connect calls. Either way, I would say, though, you show up to calls detached from the outcome of the call. You just there to really just, like you say, build rapport, see if it's any synergy, right? And the synergy could go in different directions. Like you say, it could go strategic partnership. It could go referral partner. It could go inviting you onto a podcast, an interview. It could go inviting you to speak at an event. Or it can go, I potentially maybe need your service, right? It could go different ways, but just show up detached from the outcome. I think that's real huge when it comes to those type calls.